Hello everyone and welcome back to Mull It Over. This time we check in with our Grandmasters who brought a deck that survived through many metas and a giant nerf. OTK Demon Hunter. While you might see variation in the number of copies of tradable cards, I-Beam, and Philosophy, and maybe even a Magtheridon slotted in, the bulk of the deck must always be card draw and combo pieces. The original questline version of the deck could end the game without even having to reach Demon Slayer Kurtrus, but ever since Il'gynoth had gone from 4 to 6 mana, completing the questline as fast as possible has become the #1 priority in most matchups. In most cases, you're only able to complete one stage of the quest per turn, and so if we're talking the ideal game plan, it's to finish Stage 1 on turn 3, Stage 2 on turn 4, Stage 3 on turn 5, and play the quest reward on turn 6. It doesn't always pan out so cleanly though, because you can miss out on card draw or have to take a turn to clear opposing threats. With so many card draw options, which ones are actually good enough to keep in the mulligan? Across every matchup, you're happiest to see two cards in particular, Sigil of Alacrity and Tusk Piercer. Why is that? Well, let's say you're on the play and it's turn 3. You only have 3 mana to draw 3 cards, plus your natural draw, in order to finish Quest Stage 1. With so little to spend, you need to have a pretty specific combination of cards to do so, like 3 tradables or Spectral Sight in Outcast position plus a tradable. However, if you've played Sigil of Alacrity or Tusk Piercer and swung with it on turn 2, you've already invested that mana into a draw for turn 3, and progression becomes far less rigid. Tusk Piercer is especially effective because upon breaking, it gives 2 draws, the Peddler pulled from the deck for 1, and the Peddler traded back for another. It also allows you to allocate the draw over separate turns if need be. Here we can see Dmitry Kazov has one of the best possible opening hands for Demon Hunter after his mulligan. Aside from Sigil and Tusk, which can complete Quest Stage 1 by themselves, he has another commonly kept card in Spectral Sight, which will go into the far left Outcast position after the 1-cost cards have been played. On turn 3, he's already drawn 2 cards from Natural Draw plus Sigil, so he has the option to complete Stage 1 either by swinging and trading back the Peddler he'll get, or just playing Spectral Sight. He chooses to play Spectral because it's 2 mana for 2 draws, whereas the swing and trade is 1 mana for 2 draws. With nothing else to spend the mana on for that turn, he saves the cheaper card draw for the next stage, and also discounts more cards on average, as the other option would mean the Peddler goes back in the deck. Psycho also has plenty of different approaches to quest progression here. He starts with Double Jump for 2 reasons. First, if he gets Spectral Sight, he would still leave himself enough mana to play it in Outcast to finish Stage 1. Second, playing the Double Jump shifts his glide into far left Outcast position in case he wants to use it next turn. He misses on Spectral with the Double Jump, but he still has 2 tradable cards to finish Stage 1, preserving the free card draw from the weapon for the next turn. Each player values mana efficiency because wasting even 1 mana can eventually mean only getting 4 out of 5 draws on a later quest stage and delaying Kurtrus by a whole turn. Now that I've mentioned Glide, we've got to open a whole new can of worms. It's such a strong card because not only is it automatic quest progression in 1 card, it can also be the most effective disruption tool in the meta when Outcast. I say can because you generally don't want to keep or outcast Glide in aggressive matchups like Face Hunter and Aggro Druid, where your opponent will probably have less than 4 cards in hand by the time you play it. But its power is unmatched versus decks that tend to accumulate cards like Garrote Rogue, Quest Mage, Anaconda Druid, and Handlock. As players have gotten more used to playing against Demon Hunter though, they've become more willing to part with cards in hand to play around Glide. For example, Killin All Day plays a Bloodshard Bristleback on curve as Handlock versus Dmitry Kazov's OTK DH. With Killin likely to have 5 or more cards in hand by next turn though, Glide is still a net positive for Dmitry. His first priority on turn 3 is to dump Immolation Aura to shift Glide into Outcast, and with the 1 mana spare, he plays Illidari Studies. We see a bit of a wince from him when no card draw options are offered. Even if he wasn't necessarily going to play another draw effect that turn, he only wants card draw in hand to shuffle back into the deck and improve the quality of his average hand post-Glide. On turn 4, Killin plays Cult Neophyte, which is often one of the most difficult cards for OTK DH to deal with. When timed right, it can either delay quest completion by a whole turn, or post-Kurtrus delay the OTK itself. That's why the retention of the Illidari Studies discount was so clutch for Dmitry, who is still able to get the Glide through. Oftentimes when you have Glide in hand, your philosophy is to treat your current hand as part of your deck. In the Quest Mage matchup, it's a race to the combo and you don't actually need most of your removal tools or extra Moargs. They would be bad top decks, so you should actively toss extras from your hand before shuffling it all back with Glide. Ideally, don't leave any minions for Mage to target either. It can be tempting to hold on to discounted combo pieces, but don't forget those discounts reset if you're going to glide them back before purchase. This is literally doubly important for the Demon Hunter mirror, where both players have access to Glide. So it's no surprise to see Glory dump a Moarg on turn 2 and Alan dump an Arcanist on turn 3. First to play Kurtrus is at an enormous advantage in the matchup, but whoever has the highest card draw to removal ratio in their deck at any point is also far more likely to hit the combo sooner. Perhaps the most interesting part of this game was Glory's mulligan, where he kept double Guild Trader in the opener. Keeping tradable cards might seem counterintuitive at first because the card draw they provide is not actually thinning the deck, but in a matchup where you can get glided at any point and early discounts on combo pieces are unlikely to matter, it's actually fine to retain bona fide draw cards like Spectral Sight in the deck to make your post-glide and post-Kurtrus hand smoother. Tradable cards allow you to progress your quest while maintaining that ever-crucial draw-to-removal ratio high in the deck. Although I've been going on and on about Glide, it's also important not to get tunnel visioned on outcasting it. When Alan faces Glory's handlock, it's pretty obvious to Glory what Alan is planning when he just dumps his talented Arcanist on turn 2. On turn 3, Alan plays Studies and has the option to bank that discount for Glide next turn in order to play around Cult Neophyte. But he chooses to use it on Crimson Sigil Runner immediately because that allows him to complete Quest Stage 1 that turn. Prioritizing quest progression over disrupting the opponent is a very valid line of play, and if Glory doesn't have Neophyte, Alan can do both. As it happens, Glory does have the Neophyte, so Alan can't shuffle back Glory's hand. But he plays his non-outcast Glide instead, completing Quest Stage 2. Again, Alan could have waited to outcast next turn, but he decides it's not worth it if he has nothing to do this turn. With this line of play, he leaves the door open for Kurtrus played on turn 6. The last card I want to mention is Acrobatics. As I've played the deck more and more, I've found myself keeping it less and less in the mulligan because it's so much more effective when you can draw the full 4 cards from it. This typically happens either in the mid-game with enough discounts or more likely post-Kurtrus to find that last missing combo piece. I'd think about keeping it if I already had Sigil or Tusk Piercer to guarantee Quest Stage 1, but even then, it gets scary if your opponent plays Neophyte into your turn 3. A good way to think about Demon Hunter early turns in general is whether you can meet the 1 mana for 1 card draw standard of tradable cards. If you're doing anything less efficient than that, you leave yourself little flexibility in quest completion. And that's it for this week. I certainly can't teach you to glide as well as Alutemu, but I hope you learned something new anyway. Catch you next time after playoffs.